mostly want to talk about something that is our own in-house quant system. So when we develop trading strategies, this is the workflow that we use. Um, and we just follow a lot of the major, because there's a lot of big quant, like a big lot of big uh, trading houses here in Chicago. And so we know how these guys work because we're in the same neighborhood, right? So we know their workflow. We've been able to build out a system that follows that workflow. And typically it looks like this. I actually had this is basically an AI assisted quant research system. It's so you can do research, different strategies, and then you can kind of like here's some strategies that I have developed recently that we are testing. This one is actually being tested right now. And we run everything through MetaTrader and Meta API because it's super convenient, and we can stack different strategies on top of each other. So this is something that we were thinking about possibly offering to people, at some point. But for example, just to talk about the process, typically what we'll do is research on historical data, right? So most trading is algo driven these days. There are firms that have, sort of discretionary human traders in place, but there's a lot of benefits to algo trading. The execution is standardized. You don't have human emotion. All the things that you go through in trading, bigger firms have to deal with those things too, right? So just to kind of give you an example, I have a neighbor in my neighborhood who runs one of the bigger firms on Jackson near the Chicago Board of Trade. And I said to him, what is your biggest challenge running your firm? What is your number one challenge? And he said, human traders. They just have a difficult time executing. They have a hard time handling big losses. It just is real challenging to develop people. So the direction that a lot of firms have gone is to develop systems instead. And so, you'll research and look at the historical data because the algos leave footprints. And so you can kind of spot patterns. If you understand statistical analysis and you understand like how to do data analysis, you can spot patterns and build edges from those patterns, okay? Most people don't really understand. Those are fairly complex topics, and they're not really accessible to average users. So we built this system that does that for you. It has a framework that it follows where it will, if you say, for example, let's look at gold in the London session, or gold in the New York session, or gold in the Asia session. It can look through that. It follows a workflow. It will identify edges and behaviors and then attempt to build a system out of that, a tradable system, right? Because just because you identify an edge, maybe something happens 80% of the time. I'll give you an example of something that we've found. The NASDAQ, 80% of the time during the New York, U.S. session, the NASDAQ will establish an opening range in the first hour, and 80% of the time it returns to the middle point of that range. Okay, 80% of the time that happens. The problem is, how do you build a strategy off of that makes you money over time? We've never figured out how to do that, right? So just because you see an edge doesn't mean you can take action on that edge. So, but what this will do is it will research the historical data. It will look for the edge. It will test various parameters. Like basically it acts like a quant, right? So, and then it will do in-sample testing, out-of-sample testing. We don't do what's called walk-forward testing because a lot of the strategies we build are not that complex. And so we just put it on demo, and that's what this system does, right? So you find a strategy. This is one that happens on gold in Asia, right? So we saved that to our strategies, right? We've got two of them. So you can see like a false break because gold during the Asia session tends to range. but it has wider range than the London or the New York session. Who knew, right? Um, and it will often start to break out, and then it will bounce off of that level, that range level, right? There's a pretty high statistical occurrence of a bounce. It's like I think 90%, right? But you got to know how to structure the risk to reward, because you want to make sure that you're making money over time and not losing money when you're wrong, right? So yeah, these were two that we built. And then we've got, like I said, we have one of these deployed. It is currently testing. So that's usually the workflow that they will follow. They will do the research. They'll do back testing. They do robustness checks. There's a few different ways that they'll test what they find. That kind of thing is built into this. Then you move to paper trading, right? Why? Because you don't know. Most back tests turn out to be garbage. It looks good in the back test, and then you go to deploy it live, and it doesn't really work. I would say 9 times out of 10, that's the case, right? But then that one time, wow, you've found something that actually makes money. So you test it on simulation, demo trading. Then if it works, then you move to like a small amount of capital, right? You don't put it on a big amount right away. You put it on a small amount. So you're validating the idea over a series of steps. And that's what this will help you do, or it helps us do it, right? This, if I had a guess, I would say that this is not going to, I mean, a Sharp of 15 is just ridiculous, right? That's way too optimistic, but we'll see, right? Once we deploy it, we'll see how it behaves. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. This is something that like I said, it mirrors our internal workflow. And it's something that we've considered adding as a feature or as a product for users. I know a lot of people who copy trade probably don't. They're not advanced enough to really understand what this does, but maybe if you're further along in your trading journey, using TradingView, looking for ways to actually make money, create strategies for yourself, right? This can help do that. So anyway, I thought I would share that with everyone today, and I appreciate you watching. If you're interested in something like this, leave a comment down below. Would love to know.